Hello everyone, welcome to Jigyasa's video tutorial series on BWSim-5G simulator. If you had paid notice to earlier simulations, one common phenomenon can be noticed. We were constantly cycling between three different terrains which were RMA, UMA and UMI. These terrains come under the category of outdoor terrains, and there are two more terrains that we are yet to discuss called as indoor terrains. In the context of wireless communication, the term indoor scenario pertains to location within buildings or enclosed spaces where wireless devices communicate. Distinctions between indoors and outdoor scenarios are as follows. The base station in indoor scenarios are deployed inside the building, hall, or the enclosed space in general. Arbitrary geometry of the cell and coverage of the cell are assumed. Finally, the deployment very often is non-sectored. In this experiment, these observations can be noted via the layout, and we will be doing so. In 3GPP, indoor scenarios are categorized into two types. Either they can be indoor hotspot or they can be indoor factory. The indoor hotspot encompasses residential areas, offices, malls, and shopping complexes where the base station is deployed in such a way that the antenna elements are small and hanging from walls, roofs, or poles. Indoor hotspot is further divided into indoor open office and indoor mixed office. Open office is used for simulating offices and buildings which contain the employee cubicles. Basically, structures which are less than the human height, which is approximately 1.2 meter. Indoor mixed office models the terrain consisting of different kinds of industrial layouts. So, you can expect this terrain to mimic the likes of fabrication labs, closed offices, and take different shape and sizes. Finally, we have the indoor factory. Indoor factory are used for mimicking networks that are deployed in warehouses or massive factories with a huge number of machines. Technically, this can be mapped to an industrial Internet of Things use case. Again, based on the density of the machines and height of the base station, the indoor factory is further subdivided into five categories: dense low, dense high, sparse low, sparse high, high, and high. Now that we have some idea on the technical aspects behind the indoor scenario, let's begin the experiments. Now let us move into the experimental phase. First, we will be dealing with indoor hotspot scenarios. Can select indoor hotspot scenario by selecting this option in system terrain 5G indoor. Now we are going to start for the open office scenario. Okay, first let us focus on the layout. There are 2 points which were discussed earlier, and let us see how they are proved via the layout. Point 1, you can notice from the layout that the base station deployment non-sectored, and second, an arbitrary geometry is assumed. So with this out of the way, let us start analyzing the plots. What can we see from it? Path loss versus distance graph and the CDF graph is seen that The mixed office suffers a higher path loss than the open office. This can be attributed to the fact that mixed office has more obstacles or scatterers which contribute to the path loss than in open office, which is relatively scarce with respect to the population of scatterers, thereby leading to this behavior. The next one we are going to take a look into is the link gain. You can see over here the open office has a higher link gain than the mixed office. Again, from this we can assume that there's a more favorable channel condition or propagation in the open office than in the mixed office. Finally, we will take a look into the probability of line of sight existence. Again, it can be seen that the open office has a higher probability than the mixed office, meaning it is more likely to find a direct line of sight path between the transmitter and the receiver in an open office scenario than in a mixed office scenario, which is again, as said earlier, densely populated with scatterers. To make it much clear, it is likely to find a line of sight path between the transmitter and receiver in a typical office scenario than in a fabrication lab or other labs which belong to indoor mixed office scenario. Now we will move on to indoor factory scenarios. First we'll start with sparse low and move on to high high. Now let us take a look into the parameter in question, which is path loss in dB. So let us filter out the CDF as usual to get some conclusive inferences. And if you can see, the highest path loss is experienced by the dense low case. This is because we have individually learned that when the machines are densely packed with each other, or any case where the user equipment nodes are densely packed, they are suffering from high path loss. Similarly, we have also learned that when the base station is at a very low elevation height, they suffer high path loss because the number of particles that can cause path loss will significantly decrease as the base station height increases. Similarly, the lowermost one, though slightly cluttered here, will technically be the sparse high case, because in that case both the machine far away packed from one another and the base station is a higher elevation, making sure that the obstacles which cause path loss are less densely packed and less in height than the base station. So with this, we can understand how the path loss behaves in indoor factory scenarios. Moving on to the probability of LOS existence for the different kinds of indoor factory scenarios, we can notice that the dense high and dense low are pretty much equal in probability of LOS path existence. Similarly, the sparse high and sparse low are relativistically nearer to one another, and the highest probability of LOS exists for the high high scenario. So what can be inferred from this? When the machines are closely packed with one another, the possibility for a line of sight path to exist between the transmitter and receiver is reduced. Thereby, these two curves are at the lowest. And however, we can notice that the dense high is slightly better performing than the dense low, because what we had seen in this LOS path existence experimentation. The same can be said for the next two curves of sparse low and sparse high, and high high obviously has the highest LOS probability. Now with this, I hope you have an understanding of how the indoor scenarios such as indoor hotspot and indoor factory behave. I'll meet you again with another experiment and its implementation on BWSim-5G with another video. For any doubts, you can contact the Jigyasa team for clarification.